Hello and welcome. Today we've got Mel K, and we will be discussing the election audits recounts, the Ukraine impeachment and who is behind bringing Donald Trump down, also the UN in America, COVID origins, and the Maxwell documents, which we believe Britney Spears is the one that is the opening for what's going on with the Maxwell documents and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Telegram channel and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And I will leave Mel's links below so you can follow her too. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview due to the censorship that's going on YouTube. Mel, thank you for joining me. And how are you? And where do we begin?
I'm great. It's always a pleasure to see you. We've been on this journey a long time together. So whenever we connect, I always feel like, okay, I'm back with my A team. We're moving right along, and you're always so super positive. So I'm excited to be here, and I think a lot's going on. And I just want to talk about some things that I think people might not be connecting the dots with. So figure we'll just go for it.
Absolutely. Should we start discussing in the order that I've just went through?
Sure.
In the intro? So let's talk about the audits and the recounts. And people are waiting now. There's so much fraud being exposed. The deep state is trying to hide it. Then we've got a corrupt mainstream media and social media that are banning everybody. And we have a class action lawsuit going on in the background. Everything's a bit all over the place. But how do you think this is progressing, and how will it come out?
Well, there's a bunch of things I think going on. First thing is they're caught. Okay. It's not a lie. It's not made up. It's not. The Arizona evidence is off the charts, but the Arizona evidence isn't even close to the criminal evidence from Georgia. And remember, Arizona is a county, Maricopa County, which is very corrupt, but the evidence of Georgia is the state. So there is so much fraud and so much illegal activity that went on in Georgia. We all saw it. I mean, the propagandists and the Goebbels mainstream media, they're out there saying you're not seeing what you're seeing. We saw that woman, Ruby, and her daughter and all of them send everyone home, pull out suitcases, start putting through ballots. But we also have 1,000 affidavits signed under oath by American citizens who volunteered their time all over the country in these places where this fraud was obviously orchestrated by Mark Zuckerberg, the Center for American Progress, Soros money, and all of their operatives in the DNC and in the Obama community organizing funnel. And the truth of the matter is that several things came out on top of that. In Georgia, not only does it turn out that there's in a lot of places, but in Georgia especially, there's a lot of ballots that were supposedly mailed that have shown no sign of having gone through the mail. Okay. Right. Like 70,000. Okay. So that's one thing. Second, Stacey Abrams, people don't understand. She's not some champion Black Lives Matter woman that came out of the woodwork. She has been groomed to get to where she is. People don't know Stacey Abrams worked with one of the most as disclosure comes out more and more, people will realize how John Podesta, from the very beginning, before he was Bill Clinton's, he was his right-hand man in the Oval Office the entire time. And he's also Center for American Progress. You and I know that he's all over the satanic ritual, child trafficking, all of that, accusations on that level that are horrendous. If you just look at his artwork, him and his brother and their regular where they travel and their trips that connect to Marina Abramovich. So Podesta has a lot of disclosure coming out about him, but he actually was the one that mentored Stacey Abrams through the Center for American Progress. She has been a choice of both Soros, who obviously is connected to Podesta in all of this. He's so much bigger than people get, and I'll get into him a little more later when we talk about the UN. But Stacey Abrams also somehow was at Bilderberg. She's counsel foreign relations, all of this. But instead, they trot her out there as some kind of, come up from the bootstraps, Black Lives Matter hero. I don't know if you recall, she lost the election to Kemp and still claimed for the entire time that she really won. But now if you say that Trump really won, they destroy you. She's been saying it, just as Hillary Clinton never stopped saying she won. She just knows she cheated, just not big enough. So she must have won. Anyway, so this Stacey Abrams, it turns out, hired all these Black Lives Matter young activists to work at the polling stations, especially the ones where there was major fraud, train them without training manuals that were, in any way, shape, or form approved by the election powers that be. And the what I'm hearing around, not only has that woman Ruby, who was caught on camera with the fraudulent vote stuff, and her daughter, but that a lot of these younger people, that Stacey Abrams, who also owns the temp agency, Happy Faces. So this is a whole level of RICO, conspiracy, all kinds of stuff. She owns the temp agency where she hired the Black Lives Matter activist kids and young adults to go in and work in the election in all of this fraudulent activity. Well, what's happening behind the scenes, I believe, is that low-level people, like you and I think always thought, are being arrested in the election fraud. They're not arresting the people that they know are the orchestrators, because what happens when you tell a volunteer that has been brainwashed with critical race theory and America's racist and all that you're fighting against Donald Trump and the evil, the opposite of true, and they're like 68-year-old grandmother who volunteered, and now they are charged with treason and fraud. So that's something people aren't looking at. There have been a tremendous amount of low-level election fraud arrests in every one of these places that are contested. And then on top of that, Texas, which is, remember, the first person that came out and said the election was fraudulent was the AG of Texas. He came out, he said it was fraudulent. He went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said they wouldn't look at it. Well, now he's got a whole lot of new stuff, and they're all getting together with the Arizona audit. 20 states went to tour the Arizona audit and look at the operation, the cyber ninjas, the legitimacy, all of that, found that it was exceptional. Now 20 states are now interested in doing a similar audit. And Texas is a big one because he was the first one. He said that he had plenty of evidence in 30 counties. And then now we're talking about also Pennsylvania is asking for one, Wisconsin, Michigan, and the weird one is Oklahoma. But I think that this is the good guys in Oklahoma because Trump won Oklahoma. So they're crazy. They're trying to overturn the election because, again, we're a constitutional republic and every state is sovereign and every state election is sovereign. Well, how can they say that if Trump won there? So if the people want that, and the other thing that people are starting to realize is how many down ballot frauds there must have been, meaning our Congress right now and our Senate right now might have a lot of fraudulent winners in there. So it's just a massive conspiracy, not conspiracy theory, because it had to have been orchestrated from the top. And we know Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, I believe she's from China. I can't remember her last name, but Zuckerberg's wife, Chen is her last name. They have some kind of organization. They put in $500 million into our election, and they are connected to every single one of these places where there's major fraud. So we have them covering up and censoring and kicking people off for even questioning the election after. And we had Zuckerberg 2 weeks before tell us, in America today during COVID, we're not going to know the election results on the day of the election. Well, in every other country on this planet, including like Iraq during the war, they knew who won on the day. But we, because of the pandemic, it's going to implode, and it's a really big deal. But what I'm seeing is they know it. They know it. They know they're caught. They know they installed a fraudulent government that did not win legitimately with an unconstitutional election, with a lot of criminal activity and treason and sedition. So now they're fighting back on different fronts. And that's really what I see going on is major panic. And like I told you, old players that have been on the side of the deep state and the cabal for all this time are now resurfacing. And that's why I say that Alexandra Chalupa, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and then we got all of this stuff coming out about from the military about the COVID that is bubbling up to the surface. And I just really think that they're panicking, and it's showing. And there's a lot of obvious signs that they know that the election fraud is about to break.
Yeah. It was said on the news, actually on Fox News, I believe, that when the Democrats return, they will be arrested. So
in Texas.
Yeah. Have we seen arrests yet? And if not, when will those happen?
When they return onto the land in Texas, because again, we're a constitutional republic. You can't leave your state that you work for on the taxpayer dollar salary because you don't feel like voting or because you don't want something to pass. First of all, it passed anyway. Number two, they absconded from Texas on the taxpayer dime. The taxpayers are paying for them while they're in DC, going to all these fancy dinners and meeting with Kamala Harris. And apparently 6 of them have come down with COVID. Is that a white hat op? I don't know, because I don't believe those PCR tests work. But now they're saying 6 of those people. But then again, we saw them on a private plane, obviously funded by the taxpayers, with no masks on, a case of beer, clapping and cheering them on. They get to DC, they sing like songs of Martin Luther King. The whole thing about the election integrity is a fraud. They just want to keep the cheating from that they implemented in COVID permanent. That's what that's about, the whole thing. But what the AG, who is also the guy who I'm talking about that put out the first entire evidence to the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court wouldn't look at. See, people are telling this lie that all the courts, that the cases that went through the courts were won by the Democrats. Not true. The evidence wasn't even looked at. Every case that was, kicked out of court, it was on technicalities and probably on purpose so that we got to this point. If you're looking at moves and counter moves, but what's going on with them is that right now, apparently, the taxpayers, each one of those people that absconded from their jobs and Texas, unlawfully betraying their constituents of Texas, is costing the taxpayers over $4,000 a day while they're not at the job that they're being paid for $4,000 a day to do. And that is all kinds of criminal activity involved there. And Paxton says when they get back to Texas, he's going to arrest them. So that'll be nice to see, because I don't know if you saw, the first sentence went in for the false flag, totally created Nancy Pelosi, Mariel Bowser, January 6th faux insurrection. A guy was sentenced yesterday to 8 months in prison. He's already been in prison. And there's not one thing on the charging documents about insurrection or violence. He literally just walked into the to the White House. Meanwhile, if you want to see the juxtaposition of that, they have 500 cases right now against insurrectionists. None have violence really on there. Many of them didn't even go inside. These are all collected after, because our DOJ, FBI, NSA all went after people's bank accounts, their Facebook, with the banks complicit, all of this to create the insurrection narrative. Again, a lot of that had to do with not only certifying a false election, but impeaching Trump again to try to make sure that he couldn't run again. But he won the election. I don't care what anyone says. We're going to find out. But where we're going from here. So all these people are being charged. So this guy gets 8 months in prison. No priors. He was seen there carrying a Trump flag, walked around the Capitol, which again is the people's house, not the government's house, and we pay for it and pay for their salaries and their security. We, the people, that is. But nobody's really gone to jail for the $2 billion true insurrection and riots that destroyed New York City and Portland and Detroit and Chicago and Minneapolis and all these with Antifa and Black Lives Matter last year. Well, people should know that today in New York, which is the most lawless, corrupt situation, I think, in America right now, next to probably Chicago when it comes to governors and cities and mayors, the two lawyers during Black Lives Matter threw Molotov cocktails at police vans and police. They were arrested, let out, obviously. Obama officials connected to Obama paid their bail. They sent bombs, literally, threw them into police vans. Okay, they're going up in front of the court today. So let's see what the real insurrectionists get. And I bet you anything, nothing.
So
they'll get away with it.
How close do you think we are from the truth about the election coming out? You know, the real winner.
I think we're so close. I mean, so close to the scales tipping from it being 80 million Trump voters and Trump supporters to people that didn't vote. See, this is a block that I think people aren't paying attention to. People were so disgusted, especially because of the propaganda, with both Joe Biden, because people have watched him for 47 years, be a flat out racist. He's the one in Ukraine that did the pay or play. You know, his son is his laptop is 20 years of just debauchery, money laundering, using influence. His father's all over it. Biden was picked on purpose because he is so compromised, in my opinion, and he's a total puppet, if he's even there at all. But it's the independents and the people that were so disgusted that they didn't vote in 2020, which is a big, huge chunk of America, that are right now watching everything that's going on and are starting to step up and say, you know what, it's time to go back to the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Federalist Papers, and clean house and go back to the truth. The truth is our founding fathers came here to escape what we are being subjected to now. And you know, from your country, mind you, and because not everyone escaped from where you are, but everyone is dealing with the same cabal, but it's these people. And they are all connected to the entire Biden regime that is occupying DC in many ways. Of course, George Soros, the Rockefellers, the Royals, Council of Foreign Relations, all the usual suspects, UN at the very top. That's who's running my country right now, and really destabilizing the planet. But it's the non-voters and the independents that are starting to really question the election more than anything else. So, you know, we're at 80 million, but then add in the probably 50 million that either didn't vote or were independent and are now saying, well, this doesn't look right. This is impossible. And then in email leaks, I know that we talked about this a long time ago, that there was a whole thing. And then, of course, all our press, Sharpie Gate, where, and the email came out, everyone saw it. It's absolute evidence that the woman that was running the elections, and not just in Arizona, all over in all the states, that there was major cheating and where the big Zucker bucks were. If it was clear if you read what it says on the ballot, that you could not use a Sharpie because it would go through and it would make the ballot invalid and it would have to be manually adjudicated. So whoever's working there for Dominion would have to pull the ballot and then put in the stuff manually. Hello, cheating. So anyway, it turns out that on the day of the election, they expected the most Trump voters. So until the day in person, because Trump voters were patriotic, wanted to show up, do it right, how we're supposed to in America and all over the world, basically. And so they were instructed to use ballpoint pens, as is stated, that's all you can use. And then they were instructed only on election day should they only hand out Sharpies. So that's more than fraud and treat all the other stuff. That's full on criminal. This woman is telling people, and there's a people can look it up. The email came out. It was disclosed. So in 5 states, they set it up that they would be able to take the ballots, Trump ballots, mind you, and manually put them in as Joe Biden ballots because of the use of the Sharpie, which is prohibited on the paper. So, you know, it's the people who didn't vote in America that are watching America and the Constitution and our rights and our freedoms be completely thrown to the ash bin that are starting to say, wait a minute. You know, it's funny when you think back, it's not like the convinced Trump voters or the people. I don't think that the Republican or Democratic Party will survive this at all. I also think that the whole thing's been a psyop the whole time and that they're all in on it. We've just been led to believe as we the people that we've been picking our leaders, when really I don't think that's been true, at least since JFK was shot and basically the Bush machine took over our country. But I'll tell you right now, I think there are, that I think they should get rid of 90% of the people in District of Columbia, give the power back to the states, and go back to the Constitution, which the American Constitution really only legalized or made or determined that there should be the executive branch, president, vice president, and his cabinet, the Supreme Court, and I believe 538 or so representatives from the states in DC, and that's it. So if we went back to, if we scrapped it all, listen, all these agencies, NSA, TSA, like HHS, they're not in the Constitution of the United States. They were never intended to be part of our machine. And like I said, I think 90% of the people in DC should be, and these committees and these should be done away with and put the power back in the states or a constitutional republic. That was what it was really, that the DC was really supposed to be the glue that kept us together, and all they've done is destroyed our country, torn us apart, and tried to usurp the power and the sovereignty of the states. And I think there's a big push for states to go back to being the forefront. And really, the federal government's only job should be, as we know, the Fed and the IRS are fraudulent, should be to protect our homeland and basically to make sure that the union is functioning properly as a union of states. And I'm seeing a lot of people, it's less to me right now. I mean, there's going to be the radical left, progressives, MK Ultra, it's too late for them. But, and what's sad is that's a lot of the very smart Ivy League types and stuff. It's just been indoctrination for so long. But I'm starting to see a big return to Americans who love America. They just don't want what's going on in any sense. And listen, Trump won the election, but the problem is that it's unprecedented. But we have a real chance to really go back to the Constitution and use it as written, and use the amendments as written, as law, as the only law of the land. That is the only true law of the land. And again, in America, people are waking up to the fact that their sheriffs that we elect in each state have a lot more power than even the governors. So a lot of this stuff is coming back. I'm just seeing a lot more people, which is making me very happy, trying to figure out the true history of America, what the rights of we the people are, how we the people are supposed to be running this country, and how we can take it back. Mm-hmm. So to me, as much as we wanted the election fraud and everything to work out differently, I'm starting to see more and more the genius of the back channel, which I now fully have gone back over, and I see everything like a lot clearer now. Because for so long we were like, we don't want to look at it because we already know everything it says, but it's all panning out. I mean, it's just all panning out. And then you have to look at all the attacks and all that, and why they're putting people in jail from January 6th when they know that they're entrapping them and violating their civil rights. So, in terms of the election fraud, I just think that the biggest red pill is people realizing that America has completely lost its way. Mm-hmm. And, the Constitution is being trampled on. Our civil rights, our Bill of Rights, totally disregarded by a small group of people that aren't even American. Absolutely. That's the worst part.
It's so corrupt. Well, we know all of this information, so the Alliance must know much more, and we just have to wait, right? Let's see what happens. Yeah,
but there's a lot of good signs. I'll tell you the two things that I wanted to tell you and your audience, because they're of international importance, and you have a big, obviously, you're in the UK, I'm here. A lot of my people get their UK full from my people that I've owned from there, and there's a lot going on here that really is not about, first of all, I don't think any of this is about America. I have always thought, as we've talked about for now a year and a half, that this is really international alliance trying to break free from the cabal, Switzerland, UN, CCP, IMF, World Economic Forum, Davos crew, those guys. But so a couple things happen in America the last week that are really, really signs that the cabal is desperate and they're in trouble and they know that they're caught. And the first one is Secretary Blinken, who first of all, worked for Joe Biden for decades, was all involved with Joe Biden's charity at Penn that was very, very highly funded by the CCP. And now he's the Secretary of State. Well, this guy Blinken, I found out last week in doing some research, and 14 other people that are in Joe Biden's cabinet, all were in, including Jen Psaki, all were in the Obama administration. And when Trump won, Blinken goes next door to the White House, starts this consulting firm called West Exec. And basically the entire foreign policy, globalist regime, Soros-backed, UN, one world government, CIA, NATO group, anti-freedom, anti-American sovereignty crew went next door and continued to work as a shadow government with foreign agents the entire time Trump was in office, the entire time. And basically, you know how when Biden came in, there's like immediately 30 executive orders, which are all basically Marxist, communist, you know, totalitarian, globalist BS. But at the same time, everyone came across the street. So everyone that was across the street, probably spying, we know about the tunnels there, who knows, come back, okay? And they restart as if Trump was never there, pulling apart everything Trump has done, which has been, I believe, an international alliance, a lot of it about closing the trafficking, worldwide trafficking thing, and a team of the alliance that included the kids, the guns, the drugs, the CIA, you know, all of this stuff. Anyway, so Blinken last week, and we talked about this, I said that Obama, Samantha Power, who's now running the biggest slush fund on the planet, USAID, and George Soros pushed this thing in the UN called the Responsibility to Protect, which was used to cede the sovereignty and overthrow governments, including Libya, Syria, the Ukraine, and other places. And that's part of the color revolution that's happening here. It's happening in your country too. You're a little bit behind us because it's very unclear who's running your country, though I think the alliance is very strong there. You're just not seeing it as clearly as I think we are starting to, because you'll be after us, I think. But what happens is they do the color revolution. So Soros and Obama and the Clinton Global and all their NGOs and think tanks and you know, non-government organization, charities, all this, they go into countries, they cause Black Lives Matter, Antifa, fighting between LGBTQ. They do that. They pretend under the guise of these different groups to be fighting for a minority. And then they turn that minority in that situation violent. Then they decide that the government there can't handle the violence. This is what happened in Libya. What happened in Libya is a major war crime, and Gaddafi was assassinated against the law. His people actually loved him. So what's happening here is they're caught, and they've caused so much strife and struggle. So Blinken last week, as a giant slap in the face to the truth, and we the people, and everything we stand for, and our amazing country, goes to the United Nations, setting up a responsibility to protect, which then would allow NATO and the troops from the peacekeepers that we know are all corrupt from the UN, which only bring about like all kinds of trafficking and chaos and whatever. He goes to them. Human Rights Council, which has China, Venezuela, Cuba, you know, whatever, all the globalists like totalitarian regimes on it, and wants them to come into America to assess the structural racism and the violence and the human rights violations of America. Invites the UN in. To me, this is a red line for our military, the US military, not NATO, which is the one world government's military and doesn't care about any of our countries. Their goal is the UN goal and the cabal goal, the Davos goal, the monarch goal of the one world government. NATO doesn't work for any of us. People need to get this. So right after Blinken gives the biggest slap in the face to we the people and decides that the UN needs to come check on us, setting up the responsibility to protect, Milley, who somehow, though I have to say, when I think of this. I think of Charlie saying pantomime. Milley, somehow, the head of our Joint Chief of Staff, which is the head of our military, the U.S. military, goes and apparently, after saying that the 80 million people that voted for Trump are the brown shirt Nazis and Trump is the Fuhrer. This is the guy that's running the U.S. military, who apparently hates half the country. And those are most of the people that are patriots that love the Constitution, which is really what he's supposed to be protecting, not the globalist one world government that he's involved in. He goes and meets with NATO on our soil in Virginia. So we already have foreign troops, NATO, on the soil of the United States. We know that DC is a foreign entity. The District of Columbia has been owned and controlled by the City of London and the Vatican, the entire existence. And we have our supposedly the head of our military that's supposed to be protecting the Constitution under oath of God, meeting with the NATO regime, kind of handing over power to them militarily on our soil, while Blinken is going to the UN saying the America's completely finished. You have to come save America. This is one world government warp speed. And that's why I'm saying I knew in my heart the minute that it was proven that there was enough fraud to overturn that election and prove that Donald Trump won. And it may even come out. I was listening to Lindell. I've been going around with some of these great patriots. It may come out that Trump won all 50 states. Okay. That's how bad it is. But I knew as soon as it got to the place where the media and the narrative couldn't stop it, they'd go to the UN. And in fact, they did this week. So, the American people really, and your people, because don't forget, they want you guys too. And they want all of these countries. Look at what's going on now. Everywhere that is against the Great Reset is imploding because of these same groups. And we all know, all of our countries, yours included, we had that influx of migrants and illegal aliens. It's still your country. I just saw one. There's all these people coming up on the beach in the UK, and people are taking pictures where are these people coming from? But it's really just to cause chaos on the ground, to call in NATO. And it's really scary.
So are you saying that maybe the results should have come out a week or two ago and NATO and the UN may have stopped it?
Well, they're certainly doing everything they can to stop it. I mean, I expect at some point the mainstream media, internet, and everything is going to pull the plug because it's going to be so undeniable. And again, they're running scared. Like I told you, I don't know if your audience knows or mine, but there's this woman. Everyone should look her up. Her name is Alexandra Chalupa. Okay, she's a big name if you know about the deep state, the Russiagate, the truth about the impeachment, Podesta, the DNC, Obama. Anyway, this Chalupa lady, she's been wreaking havoc in America, circumventing and trying to destroy our country and our Constitution and truth and justice with all kinds of stuff. But anyway, she was integral in setting up the Steele dossier, which we all know was a total fabrication. And Seth Rich was murdered and gave Julian Assange, the DNC server, emails, not Trump and not Russia, again, and he was murdered. Did they set up the Russiagate before or after they murdered him? We don't know yet. But what we do know is that Alexandra Chalupa, this woman, and she's not American, I believe she's Ukrainian, probably, if I could tie it back, I'm sure I'll tie her back to the Soros-backed, Obama-backed color revolution that took over Ukraine. But basically, so she was involved in that. Then she was involved 100% orchestrated at the highest level, the phony Trump impeachment from Ukraine and the Ukraine embassy, which will come out as a major, major fraud because the whole Ukraine thing was about hiding Joe Biden's crimes that connected to Obama, obviously, and to the most disgusting human, I'm officially convinced, on the planet ever, Hunter Biden, and Burisma and all the crimes there. But anyway, she was orchestrating that. And then she disappears for a while. Well, people need to question something that she did yesterday. First of all, they're pulling out the same people. So they're pulling now the UN, all that. Now they're pulling out one of the main culprits of everything anti-Trump supporters, anti-America, we the people Constitution. And she's a big one. She comes out and she writes a whole tweet that Donald Trump's security isn't good enough. I'll tell you right now, it's great. Okay, so this is completely, first of all, she doesn't care. She's one of the people who, if she could have had Trump assassinated, she would have, and she's even said it. But so she puts out this crazy tweet yesterday saying Trump doesn't have enough security. Putin has no use for Trump anymore. I assure you they're working together. So why is she saying that? Basically insinuating there's either one or two things why she put out this tweet. Because they do this in that world. Comey, we can find it on the back channel. Hillary, all of them, they put out comms to their people as like calls to action. So this Alexandra Chalupa, if we had a legitimate government and a military that was fighting for truth, justice, the Constitution, and we the people, should be at Alexandra Chalupa's house today, asking her what that tweet was about. She basically is saying, Donald Trump needs more security because he's probably going to be assassinated. That's me extrapolating what her tweet says. And in there, when she puts, Putin has no use for Donald Trump anymore, she's reigniting the lie, the real lie, that Putin and Trump had any relationship anyway. The only relationship they have is the collusion now to take out these demons and get rid of the UN, the deep state, all of that. And the crazy part is we're now, I believe it's these people that are doing all these hacks all over the world. And then Biden administration comes out and says, China hacked this, or Russia hacked this, or, I'm telling you, it's coming from inside America. I don't know by whom, because there are a lot of infiltrators here. But this is a tactic because, again, the alliance are all the people that are against the Great Reset, which is the one world government final plan, Agenda 2030. And I don't know, this woman, Alexandra Chalupa, she really needs to be looked at. But yesterday, from what I've seen of this woman over the last 6 years, that's some kind of threat to Donald Trump and also to Putin, because he's not involved, and very scary stuff.
So this happened on Twitter. When did she post this on
yesterday?
Twitter? And Twitter has taken no action for bullying or dangerous or anything like that?
No, because of how she's wording it. She's making it like she's worried about Donald Trump. That's the sickest part, because she's been involved in all of it with the Clintons, Soros, all involved in the Ukraine color revolution coup orchestrated by those same people. Real nefarious character. But if there are white hats out there and there are the military, the team and the alliance, they should be knocking at her door today. And what is this about? Because it's very dangerous if you know who she is. And it's a call to action in some way, because A, Trump's security is as good as it gets. It's way better than Joe Biden's. B, if you see what's going on, it appears that Trump is still being protected, not only by his own people, but by the military and the Secret Service. So the whole thing she's saying is crazy, but it's also pulling back in Putin as if Putin doesn't need Trump anymore. They don't need it.
Yeah.
What they don't, it's just so crazy. So, all these little things they're desperate attempts to, listen, all these people are going to prison for life, if not worse.
When we look at the wealth between, the comparison between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Joe Biden couldn't afford security as great as Donald Trump anyway.
I know. And it's so funny when even back when I worked for him and everything, I've known the whole picture that they painted of him as such BS. But also, people are very loyal to Trump. It is the truth. Nobody, like the people that work for him, really the real ones, not the ones that they put out there, love him. Especially the military, especially the Secret Service, especially the cops. And even back when I was young, when I didn't know that Epstein was lurking around Palm Beach Island, before I knew, and Trump at Mar-a-Lago, nobody quits there. His security, everyone, the valets, the cooks, the gardeners, he's a great boss. People love him. So this is all crazy. Like, it's all such lies and cognitive dissonance. But at the same time, when I look at Joe Biden, he doesn't look that well protected. And we got a letter in the mail. This is so crazy that, now that they're trying to buy off the citizenry and they're trying to get people on this universal basic income, basically, which ends up, as is communism. You own nothing. The government controls your money. Therefore, the government controls every action you take, blah, blah, blah. But there's stupid people that don't understand welfare was designed to destroy them and keep them down and ruin their lives and their futures. But now we have this group of people, especially the millennials that have been, not millennials, the generation now that's coming out of college that's completely been brainwashed in front of our faces. Our fault. We need to take responsibility for that. But what's happening now is, so we get a letter from the White House telling us that Rob is getting, he has a son. So now they're going to just be handing out money every month to anyone who has children for God knows why. But that's like the new plan, you know. So once you're on the government dole, there are a lot of people that have the mentality of, why would I work if I can have a regular income? Where you should work because the income the government's giving you should never be good enough for your ambition and your possibilities. You should always want to achieve the best you can achieve. Once you take from the government, it's over. That's it. So that's what's going on with people not working. But we get this letter. When I tell you, it was like a photocopied sheet of paper. It just said Joe Biden at the top, literally. No seal. The paper's flimsy. But when I was interacting with Trump's presidency, and I'd get anything from the White House, beautiful paper, the presidential seal, signed for real by him, whole thing. This was a photocopied signature. So I don't know. I mean, you and I believe what we believe, and we don't have to say it again. And clearly, they're out of money. But it's just becoming more and more clear and obvious that we are being played on the largest scale, because that could not have been an official government document. Of course not.
I mean, even Donald Trump says we don't know who this man is. And clearly, if you go and study, and I say this to the viewers, if you go and study Joe Biden in 2014, 13, it looks nothing like him. He's much more fuller. He looks much more aggressive. His face is wider on the forehead and around the jaws. They're more square. He looks more evil in the eyes. He's very different personality, very, very different. But I'm not going to say anything. All I'm going to say is that it doesn't look like him. But, you know,
people need to go look for themselves. You know,
Absolutely.
That's the biggest part that I think we're starting to, we've been saying it the whole time, but I think that your average people are starting to see too many anomalies, too much coming out. Listen, I talked to more people that voted for Joe Biden that believed that the laptop, Hunter's laptop, was Russian disinformation when they voted and are pissed. And then we find out that a prosecutor on the case of Hunter Biden since 2018 had his disgusting, filthy, money laundering criminal laptop since 2018 and has been investigating him, stopped the investigation during the presidential campaign and colluded at the request of the Biden family. Yeah. So, you know, you put all of that out there, but there's a lot of Biden voters that are really, really pissed that that laptop and the contents of it and the amount of nefarious stuff the entire Biden family has been doing for 20 years, documented on that, was hidden from them. A lot of them say they might not have voted at all because a lot of people voted against Trump, not for, you know what I mean? Not for Biden.
It may have worked out that Trump has gained more voters.
Oh, I believe for sure.
Absolutely. Even he said it himself. I mean, what do we think? 120 million now? Yeah. Maybe more.
Well, because people are seeing that all the policies that Trump did at the border, in the Middle East, all of it, even what's going on in Afghanistan is a total nightmare. These people, this Austin, who actually is a Raytheon board member, was military industrial complex, globalist, one world government, making our military as weak as possible so that NATO, in my opinion, is our main military, which cannot happen. They are not the U.S. military. They are not loyal to we the people, and the military works for we the people, the Constitution, and God, and they don't. But, you know, what's going on in Afghanistan is Trump was negotiating with the Taliban, just like right now, China and Russia and the other world leaders have to. And the bottom line is, instead, Biden and his globalist regime with NATO and all them pull out of Afghanistan in the middle of the night, literally, leaving a lot of our weapons. And it's turning into a nightmare there. And the worst part is, which came out, is that they didn't consult our allies in the Middle East, because the caliphate that is ISIS, which is all kinds of confusing if you look into what really is ISIS, but the caliphate is now threatening to go into an unchecked Afghanistan and regroup for their terrorist activities. And who does that hurt the most? Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, United Arab Emirates. So all the people that basically were involved in negotiating with Trump for peace in the Middle East, the Abrahamic Accords, all of that, are very, very upset and threatened by the actions of the Biden administration in Afghanistan. It was very irresponsible how they did it, why they did it. And of course, it's because to cause chaos out there. And now you're going to see NATO. So what's happening now? We pull out and NATO's going in. And Milley's meeting with NATO on our soil last week. This is a total coup to take over America for that for their goal. I mean, it was Rockefeller's entire reason of building the UN was to have the one world government. George Bush, after the assassination attempt on Reagan, took over for the one world government, and until Trump came in, they were on track. And that's what I'm seeing right now, big picture. And I guess I'm babbling on as usual.
No, that's fine. Is there anything that you'd like to tell us about the UN in America before we move on?
I mean, the truth about the UN in America is people need to look it up. The origins of the UN, people need to look up Rockefeller and Council of Foreign Relations, United Nations, and how they were created and why. And people need to look up NATO, how it was created and why. And they need to connect the dots themselves. Their goal is a one world government that is controlled by these 10 bloodline families that we have been talking about. And it is controlled on such a scale that 7 billion people on this planet that have unalienable rights by God are complete slaves to them. And besides the fact that if you look through all the UN documents, you go into the Lucis Trust and Alice Bailey and the 10-step plan for the one world government, which is still at the UN, which is still has a meditation room at the UN. Lucis Trust used to be Lucifer Trust. The UN is anti-God, anti-freedom, no sovereignty for the people, and a total top-down control of the world, to the point that it sounds like literally like it's like a scare, like Austin Powers, Dr. Evil running the planet. I would call that, the face in my head would be George Soros, but it's probably David Rockefeller before that. And then again, these same people control the World Health Organization. They control the World Economic Forum. They control the International Monetary Fund. They control NATO. And obviously, they control Justin Castro, Macron, Boris Johnson, the Queen's on their top level, or was, and all these people, and they're just being exposed. But people have to understand we've been lied to about the United Nations and their goal. Their goal has never been our idea of globalism, because our idea, which I believe will be, after this battle, the outcome, and it'll be the best form of globalism, which is every country, all this corruption going away, all the money laundering being exposed, all the Fed, the central bank theft, all of it. I can see it unfolding. And what I believe is going to happen, God willing, and this is why all of our countries need to look into the UN, look into NATO, look into who is pulling the strings in our single governments and how they got there. Because George Soros and these guys, the Davos crew, out of Switzerland, they've placed all these people that are right now working against our countries and the people. All these leaders that have turned their backs on us are in on it. One way or another, they took bribes, they're blackmailed, they're sick psychopaths that believe that they should be God, whatever the case may be. None of these people were elected by humans, by we the people. Why do they think that they get to control us? And that includes Fauci and Gates and Klaus Schwab, the worst of the worst. It's just crazy. But people really need to wake up. And like I said, the true globalism that I think is the goal of people like us that are trying to fight against this and expose the truth and have people see who the real enemy is, because it's none of our countries. It's like Trump said, a invisible empire above all of us that have all the money, all the power, all the weapons, and they want a one world government. And the people on this planet, the 7 billion of us endowed by our creator, have never heard of them. Well, you and I have done a pretty good job at making sure people hear of them, but people have to go find out and then share it with their neighbors and then share it with their neighbors, because it's all been a big, complete, it's an operation. This was so well planned. You know,
Absolutely.
we can find COVID, the whole origins, like vaccines, everything now going back to 2005. And we talk about Operation Lockstep out of Rockefeller Foundation. And people also should know the Rockefellers took over big med, big pharma, big oil, and they run the UN. So
Absolutely. So I came across one of the doctors that worked for Dr. Tony Fauci, and she says that I do not want to see Tony Fauci in prison. I want to see him in an electric chair. She says,
right.
Let's discuss the COVID origins.
Yeah, it's getting really bad. Here's what we find out. So Fauci lies, wasn't doing chain of function, whatever, any of that. The first thing people have to ask themselves is, if Dr. Fauci, who's been there for 30 years, also a partner for 30 years with Bill Gates, who's a big eugenicist, doesn't hide it. He's been basically funneling. First of all, he denied it. Second, why is the US government working with the Chinese Communist Party, which is also keeps its billions of people enslaved? They're a full-on communist country. Nobody's free in China, and it's all top down. It's the whole model. This is what actually Soros and Rockefeller said, that, and Gates said, it would be better if America was run like the CCP. They've been saying it for 20 years. That's why they invited them in, and the CCP now pretty much runs the UN. But basically, why was the American government and we the people funding any kind of joint research in a bioweapons lab with the Chinese military of the Chinese Communist Party in Wuhan, China? Anyway, take away all the specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Why? This makes no sense. If they're not just forget that they want to take out America and control the world. They're enslaving their own people. We're helping the Chinese Communist Party get a bioweapon to hurt their own people, let alone the whole world. And it's Dr. Fauci. It all goes back to, basically, and the UN and the World Health Organization and UN are one and the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
But then again, Fauci says he only gave $3.1 million, laundered it through the Eco Health Alliance with this Peter Daszak and this Barrick, these two guys that are really the creators of the bioweapon chain gain of function research, which is really about making a virus as viral and deadly for humans as possible. They've been working on it now. It comes out since 2005. Not just that, the money that's been going through the Eco Health Alliance, a whole bunch of money from the Pentagon went through the Eco Health Alliance to the Wuhan lab. And then we find out, no, it's not $3 million that Fauci has put into this research. It's $130 million. So you got to go back to the beginning when, and you know, this is crazy, but Obama was forced to pull the plug on gain of function research. They said it was too dangerous. It's a bioweapon, whatever. Well, Fauci never stopped and then lied to Donald Trump that he did stop. And the truth is that all of this comes back to Fauci, Gates, World Health Organization, and the Rockefeller Foundation, and all of their owned medical schools, labs, and all of that. And listen, over 60 scientists and doctors who have spoken out or tried to sound the alarm about all of this over the last, now we're talking 15, 20 years, gone.
So do you think that Trump knew that we were going to be hit by COVID to stop him way before it came out? Say 2017 or 18. Do you think he knew something like that was going to happen?
I mean, if you believe the back channel on the board, it was on there, but in other words. But here's the thing, because a lot of people have been talking about this lately, and I did hear that there has been high-level meetings with the military and stuff, about the origins of COVID and disclosing the truth. and figuring out what's in that vaccine because everyone's saying there's nothing you can do. I don't think that's true. I think that good men and good people, good women in this world realized what was going on and started working a long time ago when Trump was still there to figure it out so that they could, if the effects are what many alarmists are saying, right or wrong, that they could figure out what's in it and what they can do about it. And I believe that they are well ahead of what people out there that are panicking and saying there's going to be mass death or no.
Well, it hasn't
that's
happened.
just my faith, my belief. But do I think he knew? Yeah. But again, we're not fighting an enemy that doesn't have all the money, all the power, all the brains. A lot of these people in the cabal, they went to Ivy League schools. They've come down through bloodlines, thousands of years. They're all billions of dollars, if not more. They're not dummies. They're a very formidable, evil opponent. And what I think is they knew some of it, but these people, they're on the alliance level, these people they're not going to walk away from their one world government plans that have been in place for a very long time because Donald Trump came in. They're going to keep fighting and fighting. So it's just my belief from looking at all the dots over the last 3 years that he knew to a certain extent, but he was fully surrounded by liars and criminals that were in on it. Where's Dr. Birx? And we know now that the Imperial College in UK, that she was using their data to close down the world, was all false. We know the PCR test, the guy who created it called out Fauci, said the PCR test shouldn't be used for this, blah, 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 dead. The guy's dead, and it's like one after another after another. So I just think it's the moves and counter moves situation. But I believe that Trump was lied to. He's a man. He's not a politician. He's not a scientist. And I believe Trump didn't know. He knew the swamp was bad, but he didn't know it was this evil. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I'm saying is, I think that every move that the cabal made, they had to regroup. They don't know. They're just as good. They're just as formidable of an army as any group we have. These are the best of the best in terms of world control, military operations, strategy. If you just look at what the Rockefellers have done since they took the real Nazis that never fell, the Third Reich, out of Germany in the dark of night in Operation Paperclip, relocated them to South America and America, started the UN, and Fourth Reich keeps going. It never stopped, World War II. We were told it did, and it didn't. And the goal is still the same, and it's the same people. Hitler was a front man too. It's not like Biden's a front man. So is he. He wasn't in control. It's the same people that are still pulling the strings. The problem is there's a lot fewer of them. I believe a lot of them have been taken down, especially a bunch of royals and the highest bloodline family. And like I said, we're going along pretty quick, but people need to understand, I've been saying this for a very long time, that the Epstein case is what I call the Epstein boomerang, connects it all. Epstein was on the Council of Foreign Relations, i.e., the partner of the UN, one world government. He was doing transhumanism, vaccines, all kinds of research with Bill Gates and the Clinton Foundation for 20 years. We're going to find out when the Ghislaine Maxwell files come out that not only was Ghislaine Maxwell and remember Epstein said a long time ago, came out that he said he created the Clinton Foundation, and so it's going to come out that not just Epstein, but Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was the biggest spy, Mossad/UK, died under mysterious circumstances. Her whole family is involved in one way or another in international spying and technology, all the backdoor technology, all this stuff. So I believe that these documents that are going to come out about Maxwell are going to completely expose the Clinton Foundation on every level for what it is, from everything from, her whole Terramar project, which is really trying to ship cargo without it being checked, their whole arts in the embassies. A lot of things are going to come back in with this. And the biggest one, I think, will be finally, especially, and don't forget, Haiti's in the news right now. I hope that guy's in witness protection or they murdered him, whatever the case may be. The crimes of the Clinton Foundation at Haiti directly connect to Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein Island. So, look, I really think the Maxwell documents, from what I'm hearing, are going to blow open the truth about the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, and how they were making their money and gaining their money. And the crazy part is, it turns out Maxwell not only was Jeffrey Epstein's partner and purveyor of young children and girls and boys, she also was having an affair for a very long time with Bill Clinton and traveled with him on official business when he was president as part of his staff and with the Clinton Foundation. And she's this enormous child and human sex trafficker. I mean, it's so mind-blowing, the extent to which it's all, and guess what? Again, Nick, it's all the same people involved in COVID, in all of it.
Yeah. We look at these people like Maxwell, and when you don't know her and you just look at her, she looks completely innocent. She looks like like a nice person, like a professional. And it's just shocking, isn't it? How you just can't trust anyone, after what we've seen. I mean, I understand. I understand Hillary Clinton. You look at her; she looks, she looks evil, but she actually looks evil. People who are asleep don't like her, But when you look at Maxwell or Bill Clinton,
or even Epstein, he just looked like a normal dude.
Yeah, I mean Epstein. Okay, I can see he's got something in his eyes, but when you look at Maxwell, I don't. It's shocking. So what you said something earlier about Britney Spears being the opening leading into the Maxwell documents. How does that work?
Well, more than leading into the Maxwell documents, it's going to lead into what really happened on Epstein Island, which is horrific. And nobody knows the truth. The whole Netflix is in on it too. Soros is a huge investor in Netflix. They had us, glued to the TV during these phony, unnecessary, honestly, detrimental lockdowns. But Soros is a big investor. The Obamas have a big deal with Netflix. Susan Rice was on the board. They're in on it. Okay, they're in on the brainwashing and the cover up. But anyway, it's not about teenage girls hanging out with men, and going to some island. It was about children, and it was about satanic rituals, and it was about a satanic temple and a cult of very wealthy billionaires that are involved in really horrific stuff, mainly with children and women. And what's really, I think, the connection here, there's multiple connections that'll come out, and I'm working on a deeper dive into this. But basically, what we're watching right now with Britney Spears, I think, is timed perfectly. Again, how you just said, it's like we can't trust anyone. But then we have to kind of go back and think about who told us who to trust, who pointed us to these people, who made these celebrities, Oprah, Tom Hanks, Ellen, any of the Tegan, all them, who they were manufactured by the same people that run everything, including Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And so just that. And then look at all the people that we were told were good guys in DC, Clinton, Cheney, Rumsfeld, same thing. Look at how your world in the UK has presented the royal family. They were above reproach. No matter what Diana was trying to tell everyone, it just kept going as if she didn't say anything. It was like, so here's my thinking about the Britney Spears. And this is from my 15 years in Hollywood that I'm lucky to be alive and have gotten out of there. Because I got as close to this as you can get. And I already knew about Epstein when I was a teenager at NYU because I had friends and that, unfortunately, you don't know until, all these years later. And I'm like, oh my God. So that girl from Yugoslavia that seemed like she needed help was probably living in that building that he owned and stuck there with no money and no passport. And how would you know what's going on? But looking back, I see a lot of stuff. I can connect those dots. But so the point is that Britney Spears' conservatorship with her father, there's a lot of players in this. It's not just her father. But what people need to understand about Hollywood and all of this, because, so many celebrities that we're told that everyone loves are on the Epstein Island flight logs. We're on Epstein Island on satanic ritual weekends, all of that. Britney Spears' father, right? Her manager, Larry Rudolph, for 25 years. Bessemer Trust, her trustee. And all of these little pieces, her manager, her agent, they all had to have been in on honestly, the complete and total imprisonment of this woman for all these years. And it started out because I believe Britney was horrible things happened to her as a young child, which is always how it starts, because then they start manipulating them and mind controlling them. And a lot of that, you'll see a lot of these Nickelodeon, Disney young stars will be coming out as in the same exact position. But the other thing people need to know is Hollywood is completely owned by the cabal. At the very top, Jeffrey Epstein was very close with all the people. They were all on the island. That's going to be a real shocker. But that conservatorship is what any single person in Hollywood that has an agent and signs on the dotted line is signing. Mm-hmm. And what the point is that all of these people are prisoners of the cabal. And, you put it together over time, but it's going to unfold as people start to realize. I don't know if you saw, but a former Trump lawyer put out a tweet 2 days ago that said, "Watch Britney, it's bigger than you know." And I think when I'm saying that, the Maxwell, Epstein, Britney thing is going to open up to the incredible abuse of human rights, not just of children, including her, but of humans, in terms of doing the bidding of the cabal to basically, they have no choice at some point. They are completely owned. We're watching it with Britney and her dad, but I will tell you something I believe, and I understand how she feels. I would too, and I'm sure that there's a lot more there. But her dad is also being controlled. Okay, that's my opinion, because this goes way bigger than them. This is the same people that we've been talking about the whole show, which connect through the Epstein and Maxwell and the Clinton Foundation and all of this, and Nexium with the Bronfman sisters, and all the islands with the Clinton Global Island Initiative, which will connect Branson and Nygaard and Les Wexner and all these people. The truth is, Britney Spears is not uncommon in Hollywood or in sports. Once you sign with one of these agencies, the top five, especially the main one, which I believe is the main satanic overlords in Hollywood when it comes to the actors and artists, you're a prisoner. You are. And there is no way out, or you lose everything, or you die in suicide or an overdose or something like that. If you're valuable enough, I don't know. I always still question what happened to Heath Ledger, but there's a lot of this stuff, and it's got to come out. And a lot of it goes to the pedophilia, satanic, the manipulation, the blackmail. Look, Jeffrey Epstein made his money being probably the biggest blackmailer the planet has ever seen, being used by Mossad, CIA, the very nefarious former prince in Saudi Arabia that disappeared. That was Obama's benefactor. So when I look at Britney Spears and the situation, and I also believe that she's compromised, but honestly, she's one of those people that it's just very clear from a very young age that she was sold into this. She's been trafficked her whole life, but a lot of them have. There's other girls you can look back on, and boys, mind you. Don't forget how many, the Corey Haim, Corey Feldmans, all the stuff with Michael Jackson. It's all going to turn out to be way worse than people think. But I think Britney is as Britney's story unfolds, which I think she's involved at this point in the takedown of the cabal. In one way or another, either because she has to be or because she wants to be. But her case is just shining a light on the criminal enterprise that has always been Hollywood and has always been a human sex child trafficking ring. I saw another girl that I actually knew in LA from the Pussycat Dolls. You should have known by the name. She's coming out. I knew this the whole time, that they were being traded around Hollywood and in exchange for a record deal and fame. So, and a lot of them were child actors. So it's it's all about the same cabal. But a lot of the slavery, I believe, in Hollywood is the same people. And if you are in that realm and you partake on the next level and the next level and the next level, and you get into that top level club, you have to do stuff to stay there. And it's called compromise yourself. It's like when you're a kid and you're like in a little club with your friends in the backyard and you're like, well, we have to do something. We all have to do it together so that we're all in this together. So nobody gets in trouble alone and you can't tell on me. I mean, it's that juvenile, but at the very top. And that's where the Satanism from Epstein Island is.
Terrible. Wow. It's absolutely disgusting. It's about time it will all be exposed, and the elections come out, and this is the climate. It's not getting worse. We're just seeing the climax of many decades of corruption. Probably hundreds of years. But Mel, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on as always. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yes. Thank you for always letting me hijack your show. But I know that you have a big audience in the UK, and I know you're not getting real news because stuff's about to come out about the BBC being completely and totally compromised too. So, and your colleges, our colleges, everything we were told.
Absolutely. No, thank you so
when
much.
I come on with you, I feel like, oh God, and the people in the UK need to know what's going on. And I feel like you're a conduit to like them getting it. Because guess what? America's got to succeed for you guys to stay sovereign and free too.
Absolutely.
So we're all in this together. And thank you so much. And also, I'm finally up at the melkshow.com. So if anyone wants to go over there, I actually have a thing now with resources. So, I do a lot of research in the unknown research realm that there's actually truth. So if people want to go to my themelkshow.com, they can head over there and there's a section that says resources. And there you'll see links to the FBI vault, which is the public disclosure that is required by the FBI to be available to everyone. And that's on there. The CIA stuff, there's a bunch of stuff, different government agencies that you can look up stuff, the VARS data, the Seth Rich drops, the WikiLeaks drops, which people might do well to go back and visit the John Podesta emails now, and a lot of stuff there because people have to do their own research, and Google, Wikipedia, all of it, totally compromised. And next it's going to be all the other ones too. And that's why, thank God, you got your own platform. Mine's about to go. They're definitely going to have to black out stuff. So also make sure that you sign up for my emails over there too, because who knows what's going to happen.
Well, Mel K, thank you so much. And I'll see you again next week. And God bless.
Thank you so much. And anything you can verify or anything in any way, because you have a lot of great guests on and you find out anything about what I'm talking about one way or the other, please let me know between now and then, because I want to get the truth out and I want people to know the truth. And anytime that I'm wrong, I want to correct it. But I think a lot of this is pretty much, we got to really, really go all forward together in the disclosure of truth and for God, because God won, and we gotta keep helping people wake up before they're woken up without them being aware, and then it's going to be a nightmare. So anyway, love you and thank you so much, and I love your audience. They're very kind to me. So I
love them too, and I love you too.
No, yeah. I told you, this is just the beginning for you. Okay,
Absolutely.
see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you
bless
so
you.
much.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.